Actually, he wanted me to measure the frame because he thought maybe the frame was compromised, and that's why the steering was all wonky. And measuring the frame is a big deal. That's an expensive process to go through. If the original automaker of the vehicle recommends this is the way it should be done,
right,
then what credentials does somebody else have that puts them at a better place of making a recommendation of how it should be done? I say you do what the factory said to do.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Airing of Grievances. I'm Eric Reamer. This is Robert Grieve, and we are very happy that you are with us today. Now, if this is your first time ever joining us, we say welcome. If you like what you see, we would appreciate it if you would just go ahead and click that thumbs up button. That tells YouTube that it's a good thing that we're trying to do here, and they'll share it with more people. Secondarily, if you are one of our old-time family members that checks in all the time, we really appreciate you for that as well.
Thanks so much.
And encourage you, if you haven't yet, click the subscribe button and the notification bell. That, again, doesn't cost anything, but it does tell YouTube that you find value in the channel, and then again, they share it out with others. Speaking of sharing, they say sharing is caring, and if you don't mind, just
who are they anyway?
Click the link and fire that off to your sphere of influence. Because if you find value in this, chances are you know somebody else who's going to find value in these conversations. And Rob, happy Saturday to you.
Sir, my dear friends.
Always nice to get together and talk about things that we find are important. This channel was started, this series of videos was started to help you, the driving public, and not necessarily the industry experts. We have industry experts who are tuned in and checking out what we do as well, and we're grateful for you.
Hey, Ken.
But Rob, today we're going to talk about something that it's not an industry expert. It's not his car, but we got a post-repair inspection off of a car that was repaired. I'm going to use air quotes for that. Repaired somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me, we just got through with Halloween a couple of weeks ago, and it reminds me of Frankenstein's monster. Am I wrong?
Yeah. It's yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah.
So
well, let's go to the beginning.
Okay.
Gentleman called, had his vehicle repaired, and somehow lost confidence because this is actually the car that his child drives.
Okay.
And the steering was making the car do crazy things, and he felt it was related to the existing damage, and it was not properly addressed, let's say.
Okay.
And his tire pressure monitor system would not work, and he even tried to fill up the air, and no, it had the right amount of air in it, so it wasn't that. And he wanted to get a second opinion.
Okay.
And actually, he wanted me to measure the frame because he thought maybe the frame was compromised, and that's why the steering was all wonky. And measuring the frame is a big deal. That's an expensive process to go through. So I said, well, let's bring it down. Send me the paperwork. Because we always need to know what was done to the car.
Right, and you find that on the supplements.
Just like you would as a consumer, looking at the paperwork that's submitted to the insurance company, and your final bill that you should always get when you pick up your vehicle as to what was done to your vehicle.
Gotcha.
So we took a look at the paperwork, and he did come in with the car, and I said, let's get the car in here right away. If you have a steering issue, then it's not safe to drive. Certainly, I wouldn't put your child in it to drive. And let's get a peek at it. But while I was waiting for him to arrive, I did a little research, going through the procedures, because that's what we always do. We go to the original equipment manufacturer, the automaker that made your car,
Yeah.
and we look at how the car should be repaired in whatever specific situation that you have.
Sure.
And as I'm looking at the procedures and looking at the pictures of the vehicle being repaired, the in-process pictures, I'm saying, you got bigger problems than an alignment.
Okay.
So, I'm going to try not to get too technical.
All right. I'll do my best to represent you as
Yeah.
well as I'm able.
Yeah. So, dumb me down.
Okay.
But the estimate said they put a unicide on the vehicle, and the unicide is basically the whole side of the car that your fender and doors and everything bolts to.
So I put a picture of my rough red line around what is essentially the unicide of this vehicle, so you can see what I did there.
Yeah, and it's an enormous piece.
Yes.
And depending on if it's hitting the front, hitting the side, hitting the rear, you can either cut those sections out and put just those sections in, or put the whole thing in,
Okay.
depending on what the circumstances are.
Understood.
That's why it comes as one piece, so you can put the whole thing on, because that has your door openings and everything.
Yeah.
Exactly where they need to be.
So this repair plan said that they
Replace
replaced
the whole
thing.
unicide.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, the pictures indicate other than that, and we'll get into that. Hell, let's just get into it now.
Okay.
So, you've got that picture of the unicide.
Yeah.
And in that picture, you'll see a blacked out area at the bottom of the car. That's what we call the rocker panel.
Yes.
And if you wanted to take that unicide and only use the rocker panel, that's where you would cut it. And as you go into the procedures, it gives you exact measurements
Where
as to
to
where
cut.
to cut,
Right.
how to remove it, what welds are required to install it, what two-part epoxies, and
Part of the issue is that this is a piece of very specialized.
well, the outside is just mild steel.
Okay.
The outside is mild steel, and
All right.
the unicide is mild steel.
Okay.
And it calls that out in the procedures, which gives you a little room. You know what you're dealing with. Let's just say that.
Yep.
So you can see here where the rocker panel should be sectioned in according to the manufacturer.
Sure.
And so let's go to this picture.
Yep.
Okay, it's a little exploded version of it.
Right.
And I'm going to draw some lines here as to where it actually was sectioned, which is different than what the manufacturer wants.
Yeah, the manufacturer's procedures say there are specific places, there are lines in that drawing
Yeah.
where it should be cut, and that's where the color.
And you put that in
Separates.
just like that.
Yeah.
And no, we did it this way, and
I'm
up
gonna
here.
correct you right now. We didn't do this.
No, we didn't do this.
Yeah, they did it.
They
we
did it,
saw
sorry.
that they did it this way.
Yeah. That's where they did this. So
Okay.
that's problematic for me, just because it goes against the OEM's recommendations. There's a reason why they went through all this trouble.
Yeah.
And this page, this document is probably 30 pages long.
Right.
With how to remove it, how to get it clean, ready for installation, how to install it, what welds, what type of welding equipment,
Yeah.
exactly where to do it, and the dimensions for every single cut. This is the way they want it done.
Yeah.
So I kind of side with the manufacturer.
Can we take an aside here and say, you use the word recommendations in the documentation? It says recommendations. Recommendations are just what they want. I mean, right? I mean, it's not law. I mean, you could cut it
Yeah,
wherever
none
you
of
want,
this.
right?
Yeah, that is absolutely true.
Okay.
You could put in this much of it if that's what you wanted to do.
All right.
But that's not what the procedures say.
No, it's not. And I'm being obviously facetious on the other side of it, but you will find people, including people within our own comments, who will say it's just what the OEM recommends. It's not what's necessary.
Yeah.
And we go back to Frankenstein's monster.
Well, so here's the thing: if the original automaker of the vehicle recommends this is the way it should be done,
Right.
then what credentials does somebody else have that puts them at a better place of making a recommendation of how it should be done?
Yeah. I watch the NFL, and in order to overturn a play called on the field, you have to have incontrovertible evidence, and by what standards?
Yeah.
Right. The referees said this.
Yep.
They're the ones who went to school.
Let's go to the videotape.
That's it. All right. Okay.
So anyway, I want to go back to this picture where it was sectioned.
Yes.
Okay, you can see it was sectioned about halfway through the rear door opening.
I see that.
Okay. They also had the inner reinforcement on the rocker, which is behind that piece.
Uh-huh.
Now, again, this is mild steel. Okay, it's going to dent and it's going to give you some protection.
The outside.
The outside.
Yeah.
But what really gives you the protection is this inner piece.
Yep.
Which is the reinforcement that goes behind it, that is made out of UHSS.
UHSS. What does that stand for?
Ultra high strength steel, which is much different than mild steel.
Okay.
And the procedures, which you're going to show a picture of this now.
Yeah.
And if you look at that piece, how could that piece get welded in there with that other piece still on it where they did the section?
I don't see that that's possible.
It's concerning. It's concerning.
Your diplomacy is amazing.
So this particular manufacturer has a very specific document on ultra high strength steel.
Okay.
And it says in here, repair of this type of steel is not recommended. So if it's dented, they don't want you to bang it out and try to reform it, which would be difficult anyway because you hit it with a hammer and the hammer bounces off. It's tough stuff.
Okay.
Even harder to drill through. I mean, it's just crazy stuff. It also says this type of steel should be replaced only at factory joints. Sectioning or partial replacement is not recommended.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's what they're saying they recommend.
Right.
There's plenty of people in this industry that will say their way is better. I'm not sure what makes it better.
Again, we asked the question, what qualifies you?
Yeah, what are your qualifications?
Yeah.
You know, that you can say that this is a better repair than what the manufacturer says.
Well, my Uncle Joey, Joey Bag of Donuts.
Joey Bag of Donuts.
Backyard Barbecue and Body Shop. He always did it that way. That's
yeah,
my
he said it would be
qualification.
less evasive this way.
Yeah.
But this is a very specific piece of metal designed to do a very specific thing. And high-strength steel is allergic to heat. So if you were to section that in, and you're taking two pieces of metal and you're welding them together at the seam.
Welding is a heat process.
Welding is going to take the tensile strength out of that area and weaken it and make it not what it was designed to do.
Right.
So I say you do what the factory said to do. So I want to go back to, let's go back to the cut picture.
Yep.
Where they cut this.
Yeah.
Instead of cutting it down there,
three red lines.
They cut it up there.
Yeah, I got a concern about that up there one.
Yeah. So one of the other things that the procedures say is it's a note, big, bold
Yeah.
note. Do not damage or cut attaching panels and reinforcements. So when you have to take this off, you have to cut it and drill out all the spot welds and then gingerly take it off.
Okay.
What they're saying is when you cut it, don't cut the panel that it's welded to. Because the panel it's welded to is also high-strength steel, or ultra-high-strength steel.
Okay.
And lo and behold, let's throw up that picture. That is the inner B-pillar that when they cut the outer panel, they cut right through the ultra-high-strength steel inner panel and then left it there.
Just left it there.
Just left it there. And as a consumer, that's a problem simply because if the thing gets hit in the side, which by the way it already has, so
Right. What are the chances?
you know, it is going to fold in that area where it is not designed to fold.
Sure.
Because we've already put a cut in there. Not we, the shop.
Right.
And that's a safety concern. It's a quality concern, but when left alone, now it becomes a safety concern.
Right.
And I just wanted to kind of show you how important these procedures are, how detailed they are, and why we go through the trouble to look them up.
Yeah.
And you should expect the same from whoever is repairing your vehicle. I would even ask for copies if you wanted.
Yeah, and
Or at least to see them.
therein lies the whole issue, right? Is educate yourself on the quality of the repair, and if you have at any moment some kind of a check in your gut, to take it to somebody who will do what Rob did, right? Take a good look, pull the repair procedures, and it would be immediately obvious, even to somebody as untrained as I, to see that this was they didn't follow the procedures at all, and they left the car in a compromised situation.
Yeah, and with still a steering problem and other, problems that existed with the vehicle. And, again, what Eric was just saying, if your gut is telling you something, listen to it and try to reach out to somebody that does post-repair inspections. There are people out there that do them that are not shops.
Right.
They're independents. And just get a second opinion on it, because this guy was talking about a steering problem, which really in the end was the least of his problems, and this car's to refix all the damage that's done to this thing will total the vehicle. So I don't imagine he'll ever be driving this vehicle again, or his son will. It's going to be totaled. So
Wow. All right. Well,
that's what I got for today, folks.
I thank you for.
Sorry for the technical stuff.
I think the pictures made it fairly easy for us to understand, and ultimately it comes down to knowing what they say they're going to do, and then matching that against what you receive, and again, just be educated. That's why we
ask
do
lots
these
of
videos.
questions. There's nothing wrong with asking lots of questions, and if it upsets somebody, that should give you
It's a red flag.
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
buddy.
happy Saturday to you. Happy Saturday to you.
Thank you.
Have an amazing week. Look forward to seeing you next week.